Elijah tonight, and the ravens. There are crazy stories in the Bible. One interesting one was Elijah. He was a prophet. God instructed him to say that it wouldn't rain, that there would be a famine, and he did. And it didn't rain, and it really made a hardship on people. God told him to go to the river, and when he got there, ravens came and brought him meat, and brought him food, and sustained him. And then one day, God told him, the ravens are going to stop. I want you to go somewhere else. It had been years that Elijah was getting fed by ravens. God told him to go to a city called Zarephath, and there he met a widow and her son. God had led him to them. He went up to the widow and he said, "Would you make me a cake?" And she said, "I am going to make a cake for my son and I. It's going to be our last meal because that's all the food we have, and then we're going to die." Elijah said, "Okay, make me something to eat first, and then make yours for your son and you." She obeyed him. She did that, and that sustained him. And then her oil and her flour, which she used to make her food, didn't run out for the whole time of the famine. But when the famine ended, her supernatural provision ended also. Elijah put an end to the famine with a word. That's God putting his super on people's natural. There's no other story in the Bible like the story of Elijah. You can't predict where God's going to lead you or how he's going to do it. Nowhere in the Bible do you see a formula. Each of us accesses God in our own unique way. There was one prophet who God told to marry a prostitute, and God said, it was okay to marry her. Life went on pretty well for a while. And then when he was out ministering to people, she went back to her old ways, and he brought her back and forgave her, and they had more children, and they lived a family life, and then she would leave again. And this happened several times until he lost contact with her. Then one day, he happened to see her on a slave auction. She was being auctioned off. He went to the man and said, "That's my wife." And the man said, "I don't care. You have to buy her like anybody else would." And he bought her, and at least from the tone of the story, for a pretty small sum. That was his wife. He paid, and he redeemed her, and he bought her. And that becomes a metaphor for Jesus and us. We chose to walk away from our happy union with God, many of us, went our own way into sin. But Jesus never leaves us or forsakes us, so he paid the price and brought us back to himself, just as the prophet brought his wife back to himself. It's such a beautiful story of redemption. It's such a beautiful story of love, even when the object of your love seems unworthy. He never gave up on her, and he saved her. When we're lost, he's already made that way for us to get back to him. He never gives up on us. He never forsakes us. Before the earth was even created, God had the plan for our redemption. One of the most beautiful moments in all of eternity is when Jesus was on the cross. People mocked him, saying, "Well, if you were God, save yourself." And Jesus said he would just have to say the word, and legions of angels would come down and rescue him. In a moment, the Bible says, for the joy that was set before him, he remained on the cross. He took the shame. He took the suffering. He took all of the inhumanity that was dealt him, and ridicule and pain, but for love. That's a real theme running through the Bible. Even the night before in Gethsemane in the garden, he knew, because he was God, he knew exactly what he would face. the torture. He knew the hatred. He saw his mortal death, but for love, he remained on the cross. He didn't rescue himself. He didn't allow angels to rescue him. He remained faithful right to the end. That's why we take communion today, to remember his sacrifice. God tests us, not because he doesn't know what's in us. He knows exactly where we're at. When Jesus was on the cross, or all through his life when the devil came to tempt him, he could rise above every temptation thrown at him. In him was no darkness. There was no shadow of turning. There was nothing in him that the enemy could use to pull him over to his side. God and the devil are not equals. The devil is a created being. God created him. The devil is useful to God because he highlights the darkness that's within us. God knows how to take evil and turn it to good, and he does it so well. Even before the world was created, he could foresee what could happen, and he accounted for every possibility. And one of them was the possibility that we're living in. And he tells us to live in his peace, to live a life where we aren't afraid. He says, fear not. We can access that state that Jesus has, where there is no darkness and is no shadow of turning, when we're at peace and we reject fear. Thanks for listening.